Okay, so we'll do now. This is in the Likutei Torah in Parshas Masei. We'll do. This is Mamer number 5, the fifth Mamer. This is called Biur al Zeh. Okay, so this is a Biur on the Eila Masei that we've been discussing in the past. Biur al Zeh. Hine Gabim Hamasois Kesiv, that by the Masois it's written. Vahi bin Soya Ha'orein Vayomer Moshe Kuma Hashem v'yefutzu Ivecho. So when the Oren journeyed, so Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Stand up, Hashem, and let your enemies scatter." In the previous Mamer, he brought down, and then when it rested, Ubenucha Yomer Shuba Hashem, it means that the Oren had a very important part in the traveling of the desert, as the Alter Rebbe explained before in the Mamorim, and will explain that this traveling in the desert is the subduing and getting rid of the klippas which are in the desert. The desert is the place where the klippas are. So it seems like the Oren had an important role, because the Oren, that they had an important role in the journey that took place in the desert. So then the question is, the Aaron wasn't there all the time. The Aaron only came to them after Matan Torah. That's when the Eibusher gave the Luchas. That's when they had the Aaron, Vahi bin Soya Aaron. But what about the journeys that took place beforehand? Before Matan Torah, there was no Aaron there. So if we needed the Oren to subdue, that's why what happened before. And the Alter Rebbe explains that as the desert, you go further away from the desert, the klippas get stronger. When you're still next to the city, next to the land, next to a settlement, klippas are not so strong. They also, it explains that the klippas atmeyas get from klippas noiga, and the further they go from the klippas noiga, the further they are, they become more difficult klippas. So in order to subdue further on, over there you needed the Aaron, but in the beginning, the Aaron wasn't so necessary. That's what's going to be the explanation. Tzarich lahavin inyan hamasoes shahoyu ad matan Torah. That what are the idea of the Masois till Matan Torah, in which there was no Oren. The first Masois were in the desert that was close to a settlement. In the beginning, they were near Mitzrayim, they were still in a settled place. So therefore they could have been subdued by Moshe Rabbeinu, peace of him, and the Jews themselves without the Oren. They didn't need the Oren there. Although they had not the Oren yet with them. As opposed to the journeys that were within the Midbar, which is far away from a settlement. So then, in order to subdue it, they also needed the Oren. They couldn't do it by themselves, they needed those Oren to be subdued. That's what the Oren do. Also is above. In other words, the further away, the way it works above, that the further away from Kedusha it gets, the more difficult you have, more klippas it becomes. Kihine noiga hi hamemutza bein hagedusha ubein klippas atmeis. The noiga, the klippas noiga, that's the fourth level, but that is an intermediary between the kedusha and the Talmudic klippas. Kihi klula mitoivera noiga is included from good and bad. That's why it's an intermediate. That is what is written in the chariot of Yecheskel. Over there it says, Ruach Sa'ora, that's one level, a strong wind, the Anon Godel, and a big cloud, the Eish Mislakachas, and a fire that was burning. Those are the three levels. Ruach Sa'ora, three klippas, Anon Godel, the Eish Mislakachas. But then the pasuk says, "V'noiga loy soviv." Around it was noiga. It was the level of noiga. That's the klippas noiga. Sha'achar klippas noiga. So first there was the noiga that surrounds it. After klippas noiga, maschil ishtalshlu sholish klippas hanal. That begins the evolution of the three klippas. Shal yidei klippas noiga. Nimshach lahem yenika ma'kedusha. Through klippas noiga extends to them yenika from the kedusha. So klippas noiga gets from kedusha and then it passes it along to the gimel klippas atmayos. V'lochein loy kulam shavim. So they're not equal because they take from klippas noiga. So it's not equal. Sha'korav lenoiga yoser. The one, the klippas that is close to Noiga, doesn't have yet so much ra, evil, with so much force as one who is far from Noiga. The further from Noiga you are, the more ra, the more evil it is. And this is what it says with regards to Amalek. His end, he will be totally lost. Basically, he's far down in the line of klippas. That's the klippas Amalek. Sometimes we say Sotan upnina l'shem shomayim niskavno. We say when Penina used to tease Chana, it was for the purpose of Shem Shamayim. They wanted her to pray stronger. Or when the Satan criticized, it wasn't for the bad, it was in order to get the person to overpower them. That's the level of Klippa when they're not so far away from Kedusha. That's when they're next to Klippas Noiga. But there's other places where they say that Nosan Ein of Migdash Rishachulu, that the Satan put his eyes in the front and destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. So we see it was totally evil. Because there's different levels, different parts in the Ra itself. And therefore, those journeys that were in the Midbar, which was close to a settlement, which is Hainu, when you started the beginning of the evolution of the impure clips, which are close to Nega. So that they were able to, the 600,000 Jewish souls and Moshe and Aaron, they can subdue them gam koydem even before Talmud Torah. Ayidei Shiva mitzvahs shenitztabu b'mora, through the 7 mitzvahs, they were commanded in Mora, so they went right away from the Fidim. I mean, there was a stop or two before also, but I guess right in the beginning in Mora they already had the some mitzvahs. Those mitzvahs were enough to help them through. It was Shmira Shabbos, Kibud Avim, keeping of Shabbos, Kibud Avim, because it says in Devarim, when the repetition, it says Hashem is telling you to do the mitzvahs as He has commanded you. Where did Hashem command them? They're talking about Matan Torah. And the pasuk at Matan Torah says, it says in the Chumash over there that Kasher Tzimcha Hashem Elokecha. Hashem already commanded you. Where Hashem commanded you? Pirush Rashi, the Kasher Tzimcha. So Rashi explains that what means that he could, meaning that the word in mitzvahs of Shmir Shabbos and Kibbutz Avayim were already in Morah. So those mitzvahs help them to be able to be machniya, to be subdue the clippers. But the journeys that they journeyed later in the midbar, that is distant from the issue. There is the rooms of the clippers that are far away from Negam. Those are the force of evil. So but there was necessary in order to subdue them through when the journey traveled and Moshe said, Kuma Hashem. So then they needed, in other words, the more clippers, the stronger clippers needed more force. They needed the Aaron to be with them after Matan Torah in order to subdue the clippers. What is the whole intent of the journey in the Midbar? Is to subdue him the fee, because that is the source of klippas, which is the opposite, which stands against Yerushalayim Kedusha. We said before, Yerushalayim is the center of the world. That's why that is the main place of the Kedusha, Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash. So the desert, that's the main place of the klippas. And you had to travel in order to do that. Ayin b'zoyar Truma Kufna Zayin Aleph, and in Tetzaveh Kuf Pedaled Aleph and Beis, Ubeitz Chaim Shar Ha'oros Ha'moichim Zovanukva Perigeh. Who Siman L'Doiris, that becomes a sign for the generations to come. Sh'al Yidei Zeh Yuchal Kol Echad MiYisrael Lavedis Hashem. Through this, every Jewish person can serve Hashem, ulachniya gufoy, and to subdue his body, iskafia, by subduing or yisapcha, or turning around shizahu ikir ha'avodah. That's the main service. Hine, okay. Members masoyes hem kineget shemam. Usually, we have the name of Hashem. We have four names that we usually use. We use Ma, Ban, Ab, and Sag. They are all the different ways that we spell Yud Kei Vav Kei. But in addition to that, we also have other names. We have the name Mab. The name Mab is the whole words of Ona B'Choya Gidul Simincha. That's the Shem Mab. So you have 42 journeys. And the 42 journeys are the Rosh Tevis. If you see in the Siddur, the name actually is the Aleph, Beis Gimel. That's the name of Hashem. Ona B'Choyach is the Pasuk. But the Shem Mab is there's 42 words in Ona B'Choyach. The first letter of each of the words is the name of Hashem. So you have 42 words. That means you have 42 letters. The Rosh Tevis, the head of the letters, they are the name of Hashem. As we'll learn now. So that corresponds to the map. So he wants to also explain, as we learned in the previous Mamer as well, that many times we say the number 49, like it's Firas Ha'omer, and that's because you do 7 times 7. But in the name of Mab, we do 7 times 6. we do 7 times 6, and that's why we get 42 instead of 7 times 7, which would give you 49. And he's going to explain why we do 46 and why we do 49. 42 and why we do 49. 42 is 7 times 6 because we don't count Malchus. Malchus is the external, in other words, to give what's higher when we're going from up to the bottom, from higher to lower. We want to give the external, to give it out to the lower level. That's the level of Malchus, which is in each Sphira. So as we're going from the top to the bottom, we're Mamshich. As we do in Sphira, we say Yom Yom Rishon. So we're Mamshich. So over there, you're Mamshich, and you have to count 7 times 7 because you need also the last Sphira. But when you count going up, so over there, you don't count the level of Malchus. So you only count 6 times 7. And that's why you have the Shem Mab over there. Let's look inside. So Shehu Shiva Midas Shem Mab corresponds, has 42 words. The first letter of each of the words is the name. Shehu Shiva Midas Elyonis, which is the 7 supreme midas. That's why I have 7. Which is what? Chagas Nehiu Malchus. That would be Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzach Yisoid Malchus. But the Kol Achas Mehem Klulam Mishisha. Each one is included only of 6. You have B'chinas Chagas Nehi Levad. They don't have the level of Malchus included in the 7. So you have 7 spheres, but only 6 of them are included in the Shem Mab. L'cheinu Shiva Psukim. So that's why there's 7 Psukim. But v'chol pasuk yesh bo rak shisha tevis. But each pasuk only has 6 words. Shebechina hashvi shebechol midah, that 7th letter within the midah, eino b'cheshbon the Shem Mab. That is not in the counting, the calculation of the Shem Mab, doesn't have that 7th measure. So tzarich lahavin. So we need to know, there is 49 days. Dahainu, what does it mean? Shekol midah mishiva midas elyonis. Each one of the 7 supreme midas klula misheva. It includes 7. We also count the level of malchus in every measure, in every midah. So what's the idea? Malchus is the level of the intermediary, which is Malchus, the Atzilus, the Malchus of Atzilus, Nasa Atik Libriya, that becomes the Keser of Briya. Malchus the Briya is Atik Litzirachulu. And then going up, higher up, back, Malchus the Isof is Atik Latzilus. Come now, Shebchinas Malchus Lebad, Shebe Elyon, Yeredes Li is Atik Amokletachta. That it is the level of Malchus alone, in the higher that becomes the crown and the source for the bottom one. So you need the level of Malchus to connect. So Bihine Shem Mab, the name of Mab, on who Bechinas Aliyas, Milmata Lamaila. That is the elevation from below to above. Shalachem. That's why the Parsha Shema, Yeshbo Mem Beis Tevis. In the portion of Shema, there are 42 words. What's the Shema? The Shema is V'ahavta, Mi V'ahavta Adu B'Sharecha, to go up. So it seems that is to go up. But Ava is Chesed. Chesed goes down. Gevura goes up. So that is not understood. You have the name of Mab in the Parshas V'ahavta. And V'ahavta is supposed to be actually a level of Chesed. Ava is associated with level of Chesed. And Mab is associated with Gevura going up, Aliyah. So the Parsha Shema Chesed V'ahavta, because that's the level of V'ahavta. B'shem Mab hu Gevura, that's the level of Gevura. Elam ibnei she'ava the Parsha Shema Nemar, but because in the Parsha Shema it says B'chol Ma'idecha, which is B'li Gevul Hakli. It says B'chol Ma'idecha, which is without the limitation of the Keli, V'u'b'chinas ha'aloh, and that is in the level of elevation. When you don't have any limitation, that means that you're going up. The Shemab brings about the level of Allah. Mash'enke b'parsha Shema, b'parsha V'hoim Shemoya, shaloi nemar ba b'chol me'idecha. It doesn't say b'chol me'idecha. V'hu b'chinas hamshocha. Over there, it's settled in a settled way. V'hu b'chinas Shemab. That's the level of Shemab. Right, so that's the Shemab, which goes to Mokamacha. So because it has the level of Moedecha v'ligvul, that's the level of Shemab. Ulefiko chashiva mida is the Shemab klulim kol echad rak b'shisha. That's why they're only included of 6 shisha b'chinas. Sheheim b'chinas ha'atzmi is so-called mida. Those are the essence. The Malchus is the external. That's the essence of every midah. The Heimam is alim. Those are what elevated. But the 7th level, Shu Inyan Gilu Hamida, that's not elevated, that level. V'hainu. Why is it not level? The fish aliyas who be'erin sof, because its elevations is in the blessed light of the Ein Sof. Shu stimu d'chol stimin, which is hidden of all hidden. Shetiyanu hazayin midas betelim bo yisbarach, so that these 7 midas should be bottled to Hashem. La mikol inan midas iu klal. He is much higher over there than midas in the Ein Sof. That's much higher. They're not at all in the level of this midas. So those midas are not giluyim; they are hidden midas. So we don't bring up the level of malchus. There's no giluy over there. So the elevation is in the midas, but not in the giluy from the midas, because it's in a place which is hidden. Stima the chostima. So you don't have no giluy over there. So you don't have the level of malchus of the midah. So the Efsher, the L'chein, Shema, who gam came b'haviyas the ab sag ma, mas ein kein b'shem ban ein be'b'chinas mab. He's quoting here from the Eitz Chaim that in the Havayis, in the name of Hashem, when you get the letter of Ayin Beis or Sag and Ma, they are all somehow they're connected also to the name of 42. I'm not sure exactly to the Shem Mab. It says within the Kabbalah. I have to look it up. I'm not sure how that works, but and I guess because of the the name of Ban, but he says by the name Ban, Ein Boi B'Bechinas Mab, doesn't have the level of Mab, K'meshikosu Beis Chaim, Shar, Kisei HaKovet, Tzoi Perik Zayin, V'Pri Etz Chaim, Shar HaKadeshim Perik Aleph. So how come it's not in Ban? Kishem Ma Hu B'Chinas Aliyas, because Mab is the level of Aliyas. V'Zo Heipach Shem Ban, and this is just the opposite. Shem Ban Shu B'Chinas Malchus Liyas Gilu Chulu. Okay, so Ban is that there should be a Gilui, and therefore Mab somehow doesn't fit in there. B'ayin B'Pri Etz Chaim Sharvo Perik Dal B'Inyan Roishoy Kesem Pos. So that would be the top is Roishoy Kesem Pos. The word pos equals 87, which equals Ma and Mab. Mem Hey and Mem Beis together equal 87. And then you have Ba'ayin B'Migdash Melech, Parsha Shmois B'Dav Ches Gabei, Ateres Poz, Ba'ayin Mashikosu B'Yikri Yamsuf, Sevdir Mascha Yom Rova Yonis Horim Rog B'Chulu Ein Shom. So basically, the name of Mab, Membeis Masoes is Aliyas. And Aliyas is not in the spheres of the Malcha of the spheres, it's only in the sixth, not in the, that's why it's 42. Avol spheres Oimer, Ubchinas Amshachas. That's a level of Amshachas. Yom Aleph Chulu. So what does it mean, Yom Aleph? So Yom is Loshen Ha'or V'Gilu. Yom is a language of a shine and revelation. Shenimshach Ma'atzilus Lebriya, Mebriya Liyitzira, Umeyitzira Liyasiya, Ad Shenimshach Nefesh Adam. So it goes from one level to it comes to the soul of man. V'lochein B'chol Midah Seifrim Zayin B'Chines. That's why you count 7, because Sharei Ha'Iker V'Zeu Li is Gilui V'Amshoch L'Mato. It's to be the revelation of Shochalamato. That is the 7th level in every measure, Gilu Hamidah. And so basically that's why we have to bring it down. It's the Gilui. The Aliyah is stimo, not to reveal, but the Hamshocha is to reveal. That's why we need the level of Malchus. That's why we need the Gam Omer Soirim Shem Ban. Over there, it's the name of Ban, which is the Hamshocha we said before. In this part, where do you start to count? You start with Yom Rishon Pesach. You start with the first day of Pesach. And that itself is not from the number. Because Pesach is the source from where we bring it out. Shu inyan asvira hayom yom. That's the counting we bring down. We bring it from Pesach. Kibiyom out of the Pesach sieve. Ubnei Yisrael yotzei b'Yodrama. They went out of Yodrama pirush. Shu b'chinas reimus l'mayla ma'chochma. Higher than chochma, higher than counting. So Svartim Lochem Mimochras HaShabbos Pirush Mibchina Shalemaylo MaShabbos. From the Shabbos to Mechin the Abba. The Yad Roma Mibchina Shalemaylo Mezeh. B'nei Yisrael Yotzei B'Yad Roma, that's even higher. That's Mimochras HaShabbos. Mibchina Zu Tispru Memtes Yoim. And in that level, you should count for 9 days. The 7th level. Hello?